Oh, hello. This is Nick with Texas Steel Buildings, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common questions that we get here. Are barndominiums more affordable than stick-built homes? If I can get the presentation to work. There we go. In order for us to answer that question, we really have to look at the most common trades that are going to be present in building a residential home. So there are 10, maybe 12 different trades. And each of these trades are necessary in order for you to build a home. So you've got all of your trades here are going to be what you'll need to get a home dried in. So basically all of your walls, roof, planning, all of that kind of stuff. So engineering and planning, so that includes your site plan, which is basically just where your house is going to be located on your particular piece of property. You've got your architectural plan, so that's your floor plans, your elevations, your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing plans, and those just are plans that you can hand to a general contractor, and they'll be able to go through and build exactly what you're looking for per those plans and specifications. Your foundation engineering, so that is your foundation. The vast majority of times, at least down south, that's going to be a concrete, kind of a slab on grade foundation, but there are a couple of different other designs. But you're paying for an engineer to go through and look at your particular piece of land and the soil that you have on there, and then design your foundation accordingly so that you can get all of the loads from your building down to the ground. Your structural engineer is doing something similar, and that he's looking at the structural framing required in order for your building to survive wherever you're looking to build. So if you're somewhere like us where we're coastal, a lot of times we've got homes that are built to 140 or 150 mile an hour wind loads, and that's going to impact the sizing of your structural members as well as how each of your structural members connects to each other. Site prep, so that's your excavation and grading. That's just going through and doing all the dirt work to make your pad ready for your home. A lot of times you're going to want to build up your home pad 2, 3, maybe even 4 feet to make sure that your water drains away from your home. Your foundation, so this is the concrete and the labor, or the materials and labor associated with the foundation, and that's something I didn't mention earlier. But each one of these, for the most part, especially once you get down to like your structural framing, your foundation, your roofing, is going to have two components. You're going to have a material component and a labor component. For the sake of this argument, we're just going to assume it's 50-50. So if you've got a $15,000 bill for roofing, we're going to assume that $7,500 of that is for labor, and the other $7,500 of that is for your materials. So for your foundation in this case, 10 to 15%. So let's assume that is 7% is going to be materials, and that other 7% is your labor. Structural framing, so these are your walls, your sheathing, your trusses, your rafters. If it's a stick-built home, you'll have 2x6 exterior walls. You may have pre-built trusses for your roof. They may be site-built rafters or trusses. You'll have your sheathing, which a lot of times is OSB or plywood, or like a zip sheathing that attaches to your studs and goes through and creates that airtight barrier. Roofing, for most affordable stick-built homes, your roofing is going to be some type of asphalt shingle. For steel homes or barndominiums, I would say 99% of the time, maybe even higher, it's going to be some type of steel roofing. And then your exterior, so you've got your siding, and siding, you've got tons of different options. You got vinyl, fiber cement, brick, stone. Steel is also a super common siding option. Steel is the most common siding option for a barndominium. Windows and doors, so that's going to be all of your windows and doors for your house, your entry doors, your exit doors. So those are all the items that comprise the exterior of your home. Now we're getting into your interior of your home. So if you've got your plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, that's all the stuff that makes a home comfortable to actually live in. Insulation, again, has a huge impact on how comfortable your home is to live in. And then these are the things that most people care about, are your interior finishes and then your cabinets and fixtures. So each one of your interior finishes has a pretty good amount of your budget, and a lot of this is going to be related to the style of house you're trying to build and your budget for that house. So someone that's building a very high-end home will likely have higher-end contractors that are using both higher-end materials and have more expensive labor because they provide higher-end finishes. So for your interior finishes, you're looking at your drywall, your trim, your paint, flooring, and tile. Even if you don't have tile throughout the house, most people will put tile in the bathrooms, especially if it's a higher end home. And your cabinetry and fixtures, that's probably split about 50-50 between your cabinets and countertops. Now some of that depends on how many uppers and lowers you have, your total linear feet, whether or not you've got custom cabinets or some off-the-shelf units, or you've got the Home Depot specials. So now this is a quick comparison of the differences in cost between the two. So you're going to have about 70% of your items are similar, and that's going to be the vast majority of your cost. So all your engineering and planning is going to be very similar, regardless of whether you're building a stick-built home or a barndominium. You may even spend, depending on complexity, a bit more in engineering on a steel-built home, because especially barndominium, like a pre-engineered building, was meant to be a very simple structure. So if you go through and start adding hips and valleys and really trying to get a steep roof line, those can add quite a bit of expense to the cost of that steel building. Your site prep will probably be about the same for both, depending on size. Same thing with your foundation. Once you get to really big pre-engineered buildings, especially if they've got the columns spaced pretty far apart, 20, 25, 30 feet, then you can have a bigger load on that individual area, so you may even have a beefier foundation with the pre-engineered building. Your exterior windows and doors are going to be identical, whether you're building a stick-built home or barndominium. Your electrical, HVAC, insulation, interior finishes, cabinetry, and fixtures, all of that stuff is going to be exactly the same. So it doesn't really matter what you built the frame out of. All of your interior finishes are going to be the same, whether you're building a home or a stick-built home or barndominium. Different items. So you've got about 30% of your budget that is going to be a bit different, and that means that in a best case scenario, you may save somewhere in the 10 to 15% range with the barndominium, and that's really assuming that you go with a bare bones structural frame, exterior siding and roofing. So that would be going with the thinnest gauge siding and roofing you can, and an exposed fastener. And your structural framing, that would be assuming that you want a very simple box, no lean-tos, no extensions of your roof line. You're probably going with a low pitch, again, because it's going to be more affordable. But for the vast majority of people, where they're wanting a 4 or 5, maybe even a 6-on-12 roof pitch, they want to have roof overhangs, they want maybe a color roof as opposed to galvalume. All of those things are going to add on to the cost to make it to where a lot of times you may save 5, maybe 10% in your cost. But I would say for similar size and complexity of buildings, you're going to spend basically the same amount to build a steel home or a barndominium versus you would a stick-built home. So where can you see some savings? You can see some savings if you've got a large building. So let's say you're wanting to build something 5 or 10,000 square feet, where the vast majority of it is a gym, or the vast majority of it is like an airplane hangar. Something like that is much more difficult to build out of wood and can be just as costly. So if you've got a really large building, it can be more affordable to build a steel frame first. If you've got a super simple roof line, so we talked about earlier, if you're just building a 40 by 60 with a 1-on-12 pitch and you don't plan on having many windows and doors, you can build those super affordably. But for the vast majority of people, you're really not going to save a ton by building a home versus a barndominium, or a barndominium versus a stick-built home. So we've got a few more of these FAQs that we've got lined up. If you've got any suggestions on topics, or if you've got any questions where you're like, man, I would love for you to cover this, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, and we will go through and read through them and make presentations, whether it's something like this, something in front of a whiteboard, to go through and just help provide information to people so that you can make an educated decision. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.